Good evening, everyone. I'm Clifton Lewis, your MC for the second half of this forum this evening. Welcome to this candidate forum. It is presented to us by the Bartow Chamber of Commerce on Main Street, Bartow. We're coming to you from the Main Street Baptist Church in Bartow, Florida. We want to thank the church for the use of its facility as well as their technology that has made this event possible. We would like to also thank Laura Simpson, our technical manager, for her expertise. More than 50 questions were submitted by Bartow citizens for tonight's event. Far too many to cover in this 1 hour time slot. Therefore, the questions were sorted as to subject matter, resulting in 10 questions that we will pose to each candidate. The final question takes into account what was submitted and was presented in a way that afforded each candidate the opportunity to address each question in a fair, unbiased way. Please note, the Chamber and Main Street will present an in-person forum tomorrow evening at 6:30 p.m. on Central Avenue between Main and Summerlin Street. Again, tomorrow night, Friday, at 6:30 p.m., there will be an in-person candidate forum on Central Avenue between Main and Summerlin Street. That event will allow citizens an opportunity to engage one-on-one with the candidates on specific issues. And so if there's a question or concern that you have as a citizen, you have an opportunity to present it to the individual candidate tomorrow night at 6:30 on Central Avenue. Our format tonight will continue. We'll allow candidates the opportunity to respond to questions regarding the following: why each candidate believes they are the voter's best choice. Number 2, public safety. Number 3, code enforcement. Number 4, infrastructure. Number 5, amenities. 6, diversity. 7, communication. 8, the COVID-19 pandemic. 9, quality of life. And finally, number 10, city commissioner requirements. And then toward the end, after the last question, the candidate will be given an opportunity for a wrap-up statement. Each candidate will be given 3 minutes to answer the first question, and then a minute and a half for each question thereafter. When you hear the bell ring, it means you have 30 seconds left to wrap up. The election will be held on Tuesday, April the 6th, and it will decide 2 commission seats. We've already heard from the at-large candidates, and now we will hear from Mr. Wesley Harbin and Mr. Scott Shablum for the Central District seat that is being voted upon. So let's get started with these candidates. First question will be for Mr. Harbin. Why should the citizens of Bartow give you their votes? 3 minutes.
I think the city of Bartow should give me their votes because I represent the working class, not a politician. Not everything I say is going to be politically correct, but we have to take care of the people that take care of Bartow, that being police, fire, right down to public works. That's it.
Okay. Scott, why should the citizens of Bartow give you their vote, Mr. Shablum?
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I've been fortunate to serve the city now for the last 3 years. Over the last 15 years, I've been able to serve in executive capacities in various levels of leadership in both government and nonprofit sectors. In my current role with the Department of Health, I serve as the Operations Section Chief for all COVID-19 case investigation, contact tracing, and information centers. In that capacity, I've been able to assist the city in making informed decisions as we try to lead her residents through this global pandemic. I'm a small business owner. That keeps me in touch with the needs of what that community is really desiring. I coach youth sports, football, baseball, basketball. I know firsthand how important it is to be sure that we create opportunities for our kids. I am blessed to be married to my wife, Jennifer. This year we'll celebrate 22 years of marriage. I'm a dad to Anna and Max. My family has loved and served this city for 4 generations. And 3 years ago, I was honored to be elected to my first term as a city commissioner, and it has been an absolute thrill this year to serve as the city's mayor. The future of this city is so incredibly bright, and if elected for another 3-year term, I'll do my best to help us get there.
Thank you. Mr. Harbin, public safety is vital to any community. How do you view Bartow's present level of police and fire protection, and what, if any, changes do you recommend?
I think, first of all, we've got to get the pay for our police department up. I happen to know that they're severely understaffed, and I believe the reason we're understaffed is because the pay is not there. We hire police officers, they come in, they get their 2 years experience, and they seek employment elsewhere where the pay is better, and who can blame them? Same thing with the fire department. Like I said in my opening statement, we've got to take care of the people that take care of Bartow, starting with them. We've got to get longevity to our police department. The only way we're going to get that is to get the pay up there, maintain them so that they stay with the police department until they're ready to retire. I understand the benefits are there, but if I can't make it week to week, the benefits no good. I'm not going to get there. Thank you.
Mr. Shablam, again, how do you view Bartow's present level of police and fire protection, and what, if any, changes do you recommend?
Yes, sir. An elected official's first responsibility is to protect the health and safety of her residents. Our police department does a fantastic job serving our community. We were recently accredited by a national accreditation board that reviews our department for best practices, and it determined that we met those. We're fortunate to have a fantastic interim chief of police. That position has been advertised, and so we are looking to make a permanent hire into that role. Mr. Harbin is correct. Our starting salary for police officers is low. We do offer a great benefit package, but it's a challenge to keep and retain many of the new hires that we make, and so I'd like to see us become more competitive in that regard. In terms of our fire department, our city is rapidly growing. We've had some expansion, particularly to our north, and while we've had a plan on the books for quite some time to consider a second fire station, it's probably time to dust those plans off and get a little bit more serious about it so we can ensure that our north residents have the type of protection that they need as well.
Thank you. Mr. Harbin, code enforcement is important to the general upkeep of homes and businesses. How does Bartow ensure a standard of property maintenance that protects property values and supports the overall appeal of Bartow?
You definitely have to have code enforcement. You can't depend on the police department for that. They're stretched thin enough as it is. But you have to do it equally, straight across the board. It doesn't matter whether you're the mayor or the chief of police. If your yard needs mowed, it needs mowed. No favoritism. And you have to have more than one. You need at least, I would say, 2 to 3. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Shablam, how does Bartow ensure a standard of property maintenance that protects property values and support the overall appeal of Bartow by way of code enforcement?
Yeah, the first impression that anybody has of your city is what they experience when they drive through your main strips of town. You know, for us, that would be coming in through Highway 60 or Broadway, maybe coming down Main Street. And the city has done some initial work on an outdoor storage ordinance that would try to greater define what types of outdoor storage is acceptable on private property. And that's our first effort to try to reel in some of what our most notorious bad actors are like. We've got some more work to do there. One of the big wins that we've had over the last couple years is the ability to have property liens for code enforcement violations assigned to a resident's tax bill. And functionally what that means is if a code enforcement violation continues, ultimately, instead of stiffing the city and just ignoring those penalties, those fines are going to be moved onto a property tax bill so that ultimately the city is made whole for the money that they're spending to address these continual problem homeowners.
Thank you. Mr. Harbin, what do you feel are the biggest infrastructure needs for Bartow?
First of all, we've got to build around our youth. The youth is the future of Bartow. We've got to maintain the youth because as of right now, our youth is severely deprived. I'm the president of Dixie Youth Baseball. Our fields look worse now than they ever have. Soccer fields, there's no secret there. They've been neglected for a long time. And I know there's plans in the works, but that doesn't help them now. It went too long. We got to, like I say, biggest thing is we got to focus on our youth and then the people that take care of Bartow. We can have the nicest facilities in the world. If we don't have the people to take care of them, they'll be in the same shape they're in now. Thank you.
Same question, Mr. Sablin. What do you feel are the biggest infrastructure needs for Bartow?
Yes, Mr. Lewis, I can think of three. Today is a perfect example of why the city has to continue to make progress and even a deeper investment in expanding our fiber optic network. This is the fiber backbone that runs throughout the city, and we have some established already because of the school board and the governmental entities that are located here in the county seat. But we've got to continue to expand that so that we can perhaps ultimately even become an internet service provider ourselves. Secondly, we have to continue to address the failing water pipes that are still found within certain parts of our city. Some of our oldest sections of town still have terracotta pipes, and Public Works is doing a great job going through and addressing those on a regular scale, but we can't take our eye off that. So our fiber optic network, our water lines, and then we have done a great job with our streets, curbs, and sidewalks project. By the time this 5-phase project is completed, over 70% of the roads in Bartow will have received will receive new paving, and we were able to do that without taking on any debt service. It's about a $3 million project that we were able to pay out of fund balance. And so from an infrastructure investment standpoint, we're really doing well.
Thank you. The next question, Mr. Harbin, is very similar to this infrastructure question. It has to do with amenities. Amenities can make or break a community. They create spaces that allow citizens and families to bond, creating an enhanced quality of life. How do you rate Bartow's amenities, including parks and recreational venues, and what improvements do you see as priorities?
As of right now, like I said just a minute ago, our youth sports complexes, anything that is not downtown, nothing against downtown, it's behind the scene. It's out of sight, out of mind, I think. And the main reason being behind that is, like I said, I don't think that we take care of them like we should. We have got to improve on our sports complexes. We've got to improve on parking for downtown Bartow. We have got to, like I say, we got to take care of the youth of Bartow, and we got to take care of the people of Bartow. That's it.
Okay, Mr. Shabler, same question about amenities. How do you rate Bartow's amenities, including parks and recreational venues, and what improvements do you see as priorities?
Yes, sir. I would say on the whole, our amenities are substandard. We're lacking in this department. I don't think that it's any great secret. We really haven't had the type of investment over the last 10 years that we probably should have to keep pace. City of Bartow has more parks per capita than any other municipality in the county. And I think what we've done is we've probably opted for quantity over quality. And so when you have that much acreage, it really is difficult to maintain with the staff that we have. And so an investment in our youth sports is critical. Mr. Harbin is correct. We have a plan coming up that will be hopefully announced soon in a work session to make an immediate impact to address the needs that exist now, as well as the potential of something that's probably a reality more 2 to 3 years down the road. But there are things we can do right now out of fund balance that don't require, taking on debt to be able to make the amenities that we offer in the city up to a level of standard that I think our residents have come to expect.
Thank you very much. This next question is pretty important as well, number 6. What are your ideas on promoting unity and diversity in Bartow, Mr. Harbin? Unity and diversity in Bartow.
I believe I heard Mr. Carter say it earlier. You just got to, like you said, there is no west side, east side. You have to treat everyone the same, whether you live in downtown Bartow or wherever you live. And like I say, there's definitely some work that's got to be done. However, I don't know the exact answer to what's got to be done, to be honest with you. But there's definitely some work there. It has to start with you treat everybody the same. No east side, no west side, no central, no downtown. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Shabler. What are your ideas on promoting unity and diversity in Bartow?
Yes, sir. This question's important to me. Along with Commissioner Longworth, I've tried to champion the city's push to make Bartow a great place to live for all of her residents. It's important to me because my family is multiracial. And while I believe firmly that I can teach my son what it means to grow up and be a man, I believe I can teach him to grow up and what it means to have values that the Schablum family tries to uphold. What I'm not able to do is to train him in what it means to be a black man. I've had to be very intentional about incorporating men and women in my life who can fill that gap. Because the reality is, even though we would love to say that our society is past this point, we're not. And I think the activities and events over this summer have only served to call into greater focus the need to be intentional about pursuing race and equity, even within the city of Bartow, because while we are fortunate that so far we have not seen the type of events take place here that have taken place in other parts of the county, we can't just assume that it won't. And so the city has engaged in multiple town halls, held virtually as community conversations to solicit input, and we've recently contracted, or in the process of contracting, with the National League of Cities Real Leadership Education, so that we're bringing in a consultant to do an assessment and to be able to help coach towards some of those blind spots.
Thank you very much. This next question has to do with communication, Mr. Harbin. Strong communication in government creates trust and transparency in its citizens. How can the city of Bartow improve its communications in order to inspire citizens to become engaged in the community and feel confident that their concerns matter? Mr. Harbin.
I think you got to start with what Mr. Schablong was saying earlier. We've definitely got to get our fiber optics up to date so that you can stream commission meetings via YouTube, Facebook, whatever it might be. I think the city has started putting Facebook posts out there. However, I realize Facebook is not the only answer. You got to hire communications people to take care of that and get the message out there. And like I said earlier, I think if you increase the police force, they didn't get your police force out there. They get involved with the community. They know what's going on. That's how you communicate with your citizens, through your employees, through your word of mouth. Word of mouth is the best advertisement there is. Thank you.
Same question, Mr. Shablam. How can the city of Bartow improve its communications?
Yes, sir. This is another area we need to improve in. Let me give you 4 things that I think the city needs to address, and then one thing I'll share that I'm trying to do personally. First thing we need to do is hire a communications director. A city of 20,000 people needs a dedicated person who's out there consistently telling our story. We've benefited from a great Chamber of Commerce. They do an excellent job, but the city really needs to take ownership of that. Number 2, we need to establish a unified communications plan. We need a content calendar. We know the types of events and activities that are coming up. We need to be organized and plan so that we're proactive and not reactive. The third thing we need to do is we need to update our website. The city's website is out of date and old-fashioned. It needs to be addressed. And the fourth thing we need to do is we need to complete the work that's already taken place to get our public meetings broadcast again. The good news is that the communication director position is funded. The updated website work that needs to be done is funded. The broadcast of the public meetings, those actions are funded and they're already in progress. And the comm plan will be developed by the director. And then finally, on a personal level, as an elected official, I've established a mailing list where I'm trying to be a little more intentional myself about sharing updates from my perspective of what the city's trying to do through my website. And then those do get shared to social media, but I'm not the best social media guy in the world.
This next one is pretty timely. It has to do with the pandemic. We are approaching a 1-year anniversary of COVID-19 reaching Bartow. As a city commissioner, what would be your recommendations on moving forward to promote community safety? And Mr. Shablam, we'll go back to you then.
Thank you, sir. In my role with the Department of Health for the last year, I've lived and breathed just about nothing but COVID-19. I am very proud of the city's response. Very early on, we established a executive policy group who meets weekly to review all of the related decisions that need to be made. And I think we've tried to thread the needle. In my opening remarks, I shared, and I believe this to be the case, that our number one objective as elected officials is to protect the health and safety of our residents. I think we've done that. I look at the numbers every day, and the city has been reasonably successful. But the truth is we've lost lives, and that's incredibly painful. And so as we continue to move forward, we're trying to thread a needle. We're trying to make sure that our businesses downtown continue to be successful, that our businesses across the city have what they need. And while we've got work left to do, I am grateful for the work that's taken place and the grit that our businesses have shown to get through this.
Hey, Mr. Harbin, what would be your recommendations on moving forward to promote community safety as it relates to COVID-19?
First and foremost, we got to go by our governor, what he imposed on us. Second of all, I think we've done the right thing. I don't believe that the mandatory masks are necessary. Take responsibility for yourself. With that being said, at some point in time, people want to get back to our normalcy. I understand that we've lost lives. However, just being blunt, and I don't mean this brutally, but we lose lives to car wrecks, pneumonia. You take matters into your own hands, but respect others at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shablam, Young families are the future of any community. What does the city of Bartow need to do in order to attract and retain young families?
I think the first thing we need to do is make sure that we have access to the amenities that young families want. We've discussed some of those already. Arts and education opportunities, athletic opportunities, these things are important and add to the overall quality of life that a city has. We need access to good paying jobs. I've admitted it before, I'm selfish. I've got a 16-year-old and a 10-year-old, and when they go off to college somewhere, I want them to move back home so I don't have to get on a plane to see my grandkids. And that's not going to happen unless they're the types of jobs in Bartow that support the kind of life that I'm sure that they want to have. We've got to continue to partner with our schools. You know, municipalities don't typically think that they have much of a role in our public school system, but we've got world-class schools in the city of Bartow. And even from a municipal standpoint, the first thing that business leaders look at when they're considering opening a shop here is, does this have the kind of place where my kids can get a good education? We've got to continue to work closely with our schools to make sure that's good. And then, you know, maybe finally, we got to do a better job of telling our story. This is a fabulous place to live. But there's just so much negativity, I feel like, sometimes that we don't do a good enough job of communicating all of the great things that Bartow has to offer. And I think going back to your question about communication, we outline those things, and I think we'll really begin to highlight what Bartow has to offer.
Mr. Harbin, what does Bartow need to do in order to attract and retain young families?
And I keep repeating myself. First of all, like you said, we've got to have something for the youth to do. And when I say youth, I mean all the way up 16, 17 years old. We've got to find something to keep them busy, and that retains families. We've got to do smart growth. Bartow has plenty of places to eat, not a whole lot for the teenagers to hang out at. But we've got to, like Mr. Shelburne said, we've got to communicate our story. There's a lot of history in Bartow. We've got to, like I said, I keep repeating myself, but you take care of the people that take care of Bartow, the people of Bartow will take care of you. That's number one. And schools. Like you say, we've got some great schools. We just got to get that word out there as well. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Shelburne, the city clerk has estimated that a city commissioner should spend an average of 20 to 25 hours every month for non-regular meeting activities. Will you be able to devote the time it takes to be an effective city commissioner, and what will be your top priority?
I'd say that assessment sounds about right. Over the last 3 years, even in the midst of a global pandemic that I was trying to help lead through the county through, I was able to do it. But I'm very fortunate. I am blessed with an amazing wife and amazing kids who sacrifice every day to make sure that I'm able to meet the obligations that I've signed up for. And we are in this together 100%. In a way, they serve alongside me by lending me out to go and do these things. And what I would say as maybe my top priority, I've identified a few projects already, but here's how I would summarize all these things. We need to land the plane. We've got so many great opportunities that exist in front of us that we need to close the deal on some of these. You know, we need to continue to press forward on our infrastructure. We need to finalize the hire of a communication director. We need to create a race and equity plan that's sustainable for the city. We need to expand Fort Fraser Trail and continue to make this kind of a community that's friendly to runners, hikers, biking. That's huge for a city. We need to figure out what it looks like to continue to protect our health and safety of our residents through our public safety, by even deeper investment in our public safety units, our fire, our policemen. That's what I would identify.
Mr. Harbin, do you think you would have the sufficient time to be an effective city commissioner, and what would be your top priority?
Absolutely, I would have the time to dedicate it to it. If I didn't have the time, I wouldn't be sitting here now. My top priority, we got to take care of the people, take care of the city. I keep going back to that, and that's only because I'm out in the I've been asking questions. I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if I didn't. There's no department in the city of Bartow that is not severely understaffed or under-equipped. That's got to be your number one priority, because, like I said, you take care of the people that take care of Bartow, they'll take care of Bartow. And like I said, and we've got to invest in our future, and the youth is our future, point blank. If they're all moving away, then there is going to be no future for Bartow. Thank you.
Thank you both. That concludes the structured questions. We'll close now with a statement from each candidate, minute and a half. Anything you'd like to say as a wrap-up statement? We'll start with Mr. Shablam.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I want to say thank you to you, Main Street Baptist Church, the Chamber, for putting this forum together. It's challenging in a pandemic to figure out how to get out and meet people and be accessible to the folks who you're trying to convince to vote for you. I'm very appreciative of the last 3 years I've been able to serve. I have learned so much. I've spent that time trying to intentionally build the type of relationships that will continue to help me be an effective leader for the city. We have work to do. We've got some challenges that we face. We know we need to make a deeper investment in our amenities. We need to not lose track of the investments that we've made in infrastructure. We need to keep both of those plates, well, we need to keep one plate spinning and get the other one rolling. And as we do so, we need to try to figure out how to do it in the type of spirit that has made Bartow the type of place that I've grown up in and loved, that Wes has grown up in and loved. If we can do that, Cliff, we win as a city.
Mr. Harbin, you want to wrap up?
I just wanted, like I said, to start. First of all, not a politician. Not everything I say is going to be politically correct. I want to represent the working class of Bartow, as well as the leaders. You lead by example. Basically what it boils down to is, with that being said, thank you to the Chamber, thank you to Downtown Bartow, thank you to the church, and thanks to the guys that have been sitting here putting up with us all night. Thank you.
We want to thank these two candidates for appearing tonight. We want to thank you for your interest in serving the city of Bartow. We want to thank the listening audience for participating. We urge you to vote. We want to thank the Chamber of Commerce and Main Street Bartow, and we especially want to thank the Main Street Baptist Church for making the facility available to us. We want to urge you not to forget, tomorrow night, Friday night at 6:30 p.m. on Central Avenue between Summerlin and Main, you will have the opportunity to meet these 5 candidates and ask any questions that you so desire. So hopefully we'll see you tomorrow night at 6:30 on Central Avenue. And again, thanks to